Thank you. It's good to have different voices. So we're really excited today. Someone who is a leader in the community, a lot of big ideas, and he's here to tell us not only what's available, but to listen to what should be available. So we're really excited for you to have ideas. After he's done speaking, we actually have this microphone here since we're doing it on video. If you can come up and ask your question, kind of like a lecture, that would be great. If you're too embarrassed, I can run around too, but that would be excellent. So think about your ideas, and while you do that, listen to Mayor Tim Reed as he tells us about entrepreneurship and possibility in Brookings. You want to touch that?
High tech. How's that? Can you hear me? Well, good morning. Thank you for allowing me to speak at this great event. It's been so good for the community. What's happened with getting a bunch of people over just a cup of coffee. I always say a lot of good things happen over a cup of coffee. One I'll come back to, or that I kind of stick with on it, is a program called Common Read, which is done on the university. And in the midst of talking about how do you get the university to kind of cross over more into the community over a cup of coffee with someone, the whole concept of taking Common Read into the community came about. So I believe it is very powerful to have a cup of coffee and just discuss ideas in a very casual format. So again, today what Scott had talked to me about is speaking a little bit about the resources available to entrepreneurs. On the other side of that, which I actually, as we were talking, Scott and I were talking back and forth about this, is we need to hear from you, and there's going to be a lot more of that. I'm going to tell you how you can get involved and then ask for input. And so what I thought I'd start out with today is kind of three things that drive me in thinking about this community, because a good community is really what we're trying to create here. It's beyond city, streets, parks and such. It's about the community we're trying to create. And one of my favorite quotes that I use all the time and that I think about quite a bit was from Aristotle, and that is, a community like an individual has work to do. And I know individually each of you got up today and said, what am I going to get done today? We have to do that as a community also. We can't just think about it as an individual. We have to get up and realize the community has work to do today. The second thing is from a book by Rebecca Ryan called Live First, Work Second. And it's really a book about how to create a community for the younger generation. And in there, she uses the term cool communities. And this is something that I think about. It's more of a reassurance. It's more of a thing I think through that we're already doing, but if we don't continue to do it, we won't succeed. And her comment was, cool communities work together and play to win. And the concept there is that when the heat is turned up in your community, do you rally together and play to win? And what we always want to stay away from, and I think this is what this really makes me think of this group, is that we can't get sullen and defensive or revert to silos or stop communicating. We got to continue to communicate, and that's how we'll win. That's another one. The third is by an author, Peter Block, and he's got a book called Community: The Structure of Belonging. And I think this is the most important thing that we have to think about in creating any type of community. And it's under the heading of Communities That Work for All. And here's his comment in the book. Communities offer the promise of belonging and calls for us to acknowledge our interdependence. To belong is to act like an investor, an owner, and a creator of this place. And so kind of give that some thought as I talk about some of these items. So the topic that they asked me to talk about was resources for entrepreneurs. We're going to do that in kind of two different ways. One is I'm going to talk about what we have that is your very traditional thought of, I need help on how to start a business, okay? And the second part of this, I want to talk about, is more the place that it needs to be created in. And so I'm going to split this into two and try not to focus on any one of them too much so we can make sure we get through everything. But the question always comes, what does the city offer to help entrepreneurs? Well, the city itself really isn't more of an investor in organizations. We provide funds for organizations like the Brookings Economic Development Corporation. Al Houghton back here, he's the executive director of that group. We also invest in the research park. That's another area that we're trying to help entrepreneurs, and it's also more of a technology area. We had the governor here yesterday because Brookings has the first certified technology park in South Dakota, and we were celebrating that. So that's something we invest money in. The city's actually put over $8 million into the infrastructure and helping that facility continue to run. So as a city, You know, these organizations offer a lot of great help that you should go to them when you do need help. The BEDC is a great organization. There's also the Enterprise Institute that's located in the research park. And so again, the city provides more of the structure for them to be within. But to be honest with you, the city's got to stay out of the way when it comes to entrepreneurs. That's not where we should be. We shouldn't be controlling. We shouldn't say this is exactly how you got to do it, because in City Hall, you know what we're good at? We're good at building roads. That's what we know how to do. And so we're not entrepreneurs in City Hall. And that's why an organization like BDC has their outside board that's full of people that know how to handle business, and that's why we turn that over to them. So while the city doesn't, you can't walk into City Hall and say, I'm an entrepreneur, I need help. You know, we don't have those resources. But what we want to make sure what we are doing is the aspect of planning. Do we have the zones available that you can start your business at? Is there any way we're getting in the way with red tape? Luckily, you don't need too many occupational licenses in South Dakota or in Brookings. The only time we get a little concerned when you're starting a business is if you're within your house. And obviously, you have a neighborhood to worry about at that point. You have your neighbors that you have to be friendly with. So that's about the only area. Otherwise, we really do try to stay out of the way. The main thing the city needs to do then is to be open and inclusive with everybody. And I'm going to talk a little bit about how you can get involved with that. The old way was to come to a city council meeting. And if you ever do watch city council meetings, which if you do, I wonder about you, because it's not, I don't think it's very entertaining. Some people do. But it helps you understand what's going on in the community. But you'll see me kind of look up, and when I ask for public input and chuckle, that's because there's nobody there. How many of you at 6 o'clock at night think, oh, I should go to a city council meeting? I mean, you got kids you're worrying about, you got activities, it's tough, okay? So getting on TV was part of that because it can be replayed several times so you can see what the council's up to. But the other part of that is, and there's cards on your table, and this is something we started earlier this year, and it's called Engage Brookings. That is a very good mechanism for feedback to the city. And so I'd hope everybody here, if you don't have an account to Engage Brookings, please get involved, because it's a great online tool for collecting ideas in the community. And that's what we really need from you. And that's the second part I'm going to go into, is that as I was talking about this, the community is responsible for the place. Whether it's the place that you start your business, or it's the place that you live, or it's the place that you go for fun. You know, where do you actually live? When I said live before, I meant your home. You know, we provide the place for your home, we provide the place for you to work, and it's that in-between space that's really important that we have to continue to talk about. What do you expect out of this community for recreation and those kind of things? And so we need to support, as I said before, the in-between places. Now, what is that? It's the roads. What's important in transportation? We're in the middle of a transportation discussion right now with 6th Street. We need your input. Luckily there we got a lot of input. We really did. And that was a good thing. We like input. The other places where zones are. Where are you going to work? Where are you going to live? Where are you going to play? And how should those zones interact with each other? Parks. Obviously, Scott was talking about he wants to head out to the nature park and enjoy the sunlight coming through these with the ice on the trees and what that would be like. Parks are very important. Another area is, how do we interact with everybody in this community? We have a Human Rights Commission. The library, gathering places, you know, that's something the city's involved with. And historic preservation. How do we want this community to look in the future? The reason I brought up all of those is every single one of us has a volunteer board that helps us operate. And that's where we need everybody to be part of. You can go down to City Hall, or you can get online, and there's a form first you can check out what boards are available, and then you can do an application process for those boards. And then I go through those, and I recommend to the City Council who we should appoint to those boards. So between Engage Brookings and those volunteer boards, that's really a place that you can be active. And again, this is where you belong, where you invest, you own, and you create. And so that to me is the most important part, and that's really what I really want to be here for, is to listen to ideas that you have or questions that you have. So basically, after all that, tell me what we can do and that other leaders in this room can do for you as entrepreneurs.